Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Who Dem podcast. My name is Damian Galvan, and today we have a very exciting episode. We were joined by Texas State Representative Christina Morales to discuss the gerrymandering efforts that are taking place in Texas right now. She is among the Democrats that have fled the state in order to break quorum and prevent this vote from taking place. This vote would flip 5 Democratic districts and hand them over to Republicans. One of her colleagues has openly admitted that they are carving out Hispanic districts in order to win for the party. They're putting the party over people. Christina Morales has an amazing reaction to all of this, really breaks it down in good detail and explains to us why this is such a threat to not only the state of Texas, but to our democracy as a whole. Stick around to learn how you can support these efforts, because right now, the truth is that we need fighters. We need fighters, point blank, period. So to see Texas state Democrats coming out and being those fighters reminds us what we can do to fight back against the shit that we're seeing, because honestly, it's devastating. So with that said, here's the conversation with Representative Morales. We have one video that I would love to show to you and get your thoughts on specifically about this situation that's going on in terms of
Sure.
the redistricting. Max, if we could get that pulled up.
Do this in a census off year when you just redistricted in 2021?
Because we can. We have the votes. It's legal for us to do so. It's legal for us to draw the lines based on political performance. We have 3 Hispanic predominated districts in South Texas that we believe that we can carve out for Republican leadership in the United States Congress. It's going to be a good thing for Texas. I don't spend any time thinking about what happens in California, Illinois, or New York. I'm here to protect Texas and ensure that our voices are heard.
So, because you can, why should you though?
Because it's good for our party, it's good for our state, and we need to ensure that Donald Trump's agenda continues to be enacted throughout his second term.
Why do this in a
Got it there. Yeah, so a couple things to mention there. I mean, obviously, first, the term carve out, it's very mask off. It's, you feel that you have the power, you have the authority to be able to do that. And the second thing that I note there is when he says, because we can, it's good for, he doesn't start with Texans. He doesn't start with, our country. He says it's good for our party. It's very blatant. What are your thoughts?
I mean, putting party before people, putting Donald Trump before Texans. I mean, it is really outrageous to hear that. I actually saw that video because if you continue to watch it, he actually tells people where we are staying and tells them to come and get us. The rhetoric is absolutely dangerous. People are being harmed from videos like this. So I take so much offense to everything that was said there. And gerrymandering is never good. Let's agree on that. But to take advantage and disenfranchise people, there are a lot of Democrats in Texas. That's the only way that we are able to break quorum, is because there's enough of us, more than a third of us, to be able to stop what they are doing. And it's the nuclear weapon that we don't like to use. It's very, very hard to be away from home, but there's enough of us to do that. And so what he is saying is a lie. I mean, there are Democrats too that that he's, just not letting them have a voice. And it's just outrageous what is going on. I'm so proud of our caucus to be so united to fight against these extreme measures to just give an advantage to a president who is a felon. I mean, the guy is a felon. What is he going to do with this type of these votes if he gets them? He will maybe allow himself to run a third term. Maybe he'll, I don't know, do away with those Epstein files. Come on, this is outrageous.
Yeah. I mean, he's already doing it without the seats. He's already doing it without the votes. So, if you add this cherry on top of everything that's going on, I can only imagine how much worse it's going to get. And something else, being Hispanic and being Texan, they're not mutually exclusive terms. A lot of Texas is Hispanic. A lot of Texas is Latino. The state with the second most undocumented population. This is going to also hurt, citizens that were born here, family. I grew up with one of my parents being undocumented. My father became a citizen recently, but you know, situations like that, it ends up hurting the next generation of Americans. So, specifically with Harris County, how do you think that this redistricting could affect you and your community?
Oh my God, thanks for saying everything that you said because we are, everything that's happening right now will impact the next generation of Latinos living in Texas. So when we look at Harris County, my district has three of those congressional seats that are being targeted. And they've always been held by bold leaders. So currently in District 29, we have Sylvia Garcia. She was part of the impeachment process during the Trump impeachment process. So a very bold leader who fights for DACA, for healthcare, education. We have Congressman Al Green in District 9, a very bold leader. His cane, amazing human and very well spoken. We also had Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee, who, wow, I mean, maybe she rubbed people the wrong way, but you loved it when she was representing you and fighting for you because you knew she was going to fight for you. So you had these bold leaders in all these seats, and they've literally torn those districts apart, como una machete, like that. It's crazy. There is one neighborhood in Houston, it's called Lindell Park, a beloved historic Latino neighborhood. It will now be represented by three members of Congress. It's crazy to think. And it's a Latino neighborhood. So they took a keyhole out so that Sylvia Garcia, that's her neighborhood, she could have her district and it runs north. And then the rest of the neighborhood, they split in two. A small neighborhood divided into three congressional districts. This is purely AI generated ways of making sure they get just the right amount of each population to give Republicans an advantage. And it's really horrific to watch. But the implications of this are really terrible because we're already seeing Project 2025 happening. The anti-DEI movement is impacting Latinos and they don't even understand how. But I'm watching it. When the anti-DEI bill first passed, my community college reached out to me. I represent, in my district, I have several Houston Community College campuses. And they said, hey, we had scholarships carved out for Latino students, but because of whatever the bill number was, because of the anti-DEI bill, we can no longer allocate these scholarships for Latino students. So all this is going to do is put us way back. We will have a harder time accessing education, as you saw with the in-state tuition for our DACA students too. So the implications of this, we won't see for decades, but it's going to take a lot of work to get to where we are today.
Yeah, and where I grew up in Georgia, Hispanic students already have the lowest rate of graduating high school. When they do graduate high school, they have the lowest rate of finishing college. When they finish college, they have the lowest rate of finding a job when they get a bachelor's degree. So there's already so many hurdles in the way, so many obstacles. And so when someone asks, why are these programs important? Why is it important to present opportunities to students who haven't had those opportunities before? It's because there's already obstacles in the way. And this is meant to alleviate some of those struggles that you might face on that path and to really let people who deserve to be in positions of power or people who deserve to, live a life with dignity or go in and chase their dreams, however they may, have those opportunities. So, obviously with taking away the representation of people within the state of Texas, you minimize those voices on the national level. And things like these anti-DEI bills are able to pass in the future, like you're pointing out with Trump in his third term potentially or continuing to stay in office. Going back to these figures within Texas, Al Green, actually, it's funny you mentioned him. I ran into him at the grocery store the other day very randomly.
Um,
Very a genuine person, very kind, and a fighter. And that's a theme that you see with a lot of Texas Democrats. You mentioned the 2021 quorum break. Talk to me a little bit about that, but talk to me about what really gets Texas Democrats to break away, not to throw shade at the rest of the Democratic Party nationally, but to really be those fighters that have that fighting spirit behind them.
wow, we're from Texas. So listen, I have a lot of memories from the last quorum break, and I was so proud that we were able to hold together and stay united for well over 30 days. Um, it seems like this time it's a little bit harder. I'm not sure why, but there's a lot of tension and anxiety because we don't want anybody to go back to the floor. But I think people still have PTSD from the last time. Um, you know, we had a lot of ally support last time, but this time uh, there are a lot of national implications. So I think what really brought us to this point to be able to break quorum this time was that this wouldn't just impact Texans, but this impacts the entire nation. So we knew that all eyes are on Texas, and the way to turn our nation blue is through Texas. I mean, clearly, if we flip Texas, the whole nation is going to flip blue for decades. So there's a lot of work to be done here. I think we wanted people to know that we need investment here. We need to be reaching out to those Latino communities, particularly in South Texas, where the Trump message resonated better. There's so many nuances within the Latino community, and we think that that one message resonates with all of them, and it doesn't. There are many who feel like immigrants did take their jobs away, or that immigrants are taking advantage of the system because maybe they saw something, I don't know, and it stayed with them. But I feel really bad that a lot of Latinos felt like voting for Trump was going to help them at the grocery store and with the economy and make sure their money went further, but sadly, that's not what's happening. But to your point, I'm really, really proud to stand with these colleagues. We are we're ready to fight, and we're united, and we're resilient, and we're not ready to stand down.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's empowering to see. I was speaking with Representative Derek Tran from California last week, and he was talking to me about, meeting with his constituents and what they want from him as a representative. And he says that they want a fighter. And it makes me very happy to see, Texas Democrats standing up for those voices that, sometimes aren't heard. But going back to this, South Texas, I have a lot of family in South Texas and the RGV, in El Paso and Mission. It was surprising to me to see the amount of support that a lot of communities in South Texas did give to an administration that calls people that look like them, murderers and drug dealers and rapists. But I think that a lot of people take this approach of patronizing individuals that have these perspectives. And I think, to me, the way that I look at it is, well, if you were inclined to vote for someone that speaks so negatively about you, what was the other side doing? What was the other side saying? What was the other side advocating for? How do you flip that message and really get these people back on board and return them to the Democratic Party moving forward?
We're always going to be supporting issues like women's rights and the rights of the LGBTQIA plus community. We're also going to want to enact better gun laws, but we're not trying to take anybody's guns away. But what happened is the Republicans used those things that we are protective of, and that those people that we look out for and flip the script. They made people believe that all we're doing is fighting for trans rights. And yes, we are going to fight for trans rights, but it's not our priority right now. Women having access to health care, we're always going to fight for that. But right now, we are trying to save American democracy. We know that the number one issue that we are contacted about is the price of groceries, honestly. So our message is that we stand firm, that we want to help working families. And if you really, people don't have time to look into what our message is because sometimes it's too complicated. But if you really look at the policy and you look at the bills that we filed, we are firmly wanting to give people real property tax relief. I filed a property tax bill, but most people wouldn't even know that. My conservative friends say, "You sound like a Republican when you say that." I said, "I've always cared about property tax relief. I have a small business and I have to pay property taxes too, but sadly, we only give it to corporations. So every property tax bill that we have passed gives a bigger tax break to corporations than it does to an individual who just owns their one home. You know, when we work on education, they'll let you believe that they want to give you a coupon to send your kid to a fancy school. What they don't tell you, the fancy school isn't going to let your kid in. And if your kid has some kind of special needs or learning disability, they don't want your kid. So those are the things that they're not telling you. And it truly has, like my colleague James Tallarico has said, it has become the wealthy versus the working class, because we saw a voucher bill pass after Jeff Yaz gave our governor a $6 million campaign donation. And they call us that we're the ones taking bribes.
Yeah.
I mean, come on, look in the mirror. But
Yeah.
our messaging has been off. I'm not sure if hopefully this is changing the message, because we are fighters and we do fight back. And sometimes, and for a long time, we've been trying to take those little wins home when we don't have the advantage or we don't have the numbers. But I guess we're going to have to just hit a lower point before we bounce back up. And we're almost there.
Yeah.
And so we just decided as a caucus that, hey, you know what? We can't sit back and just let this happen. We're going to start fighting, and that fight starts today. And we took off and we left the state.
Yeah, no, and it goes back to, kind of that fighting spirit that I think so many, not just Democrats, but constituents want to see across the country, right? If you ask me in terms of what was the problem with the messaging, a lot of the times it was that Republicans speak for Democrats, and Democrats, don't get out and speak for
I
themselves,
love
talk
the way
about their
you put
policies.
that.
Yeah, it really is something that for me it's been frustrating, because there are a lot of trans rights, trans issues. It's such a small population, such a
Correct.
such a vulnerable population, and to see the way that they're dehumanized, and to imagine that there's a party that is concerned about this, that is looking out for it. To me is important, but seeing the way that message gets flipped, thinking about the Donald Trump ad, specifically with Kamala Harris, she's for they, them, not for you. Just using this rhetoric that it's so harmful, and to see Democrats, kind of take it back, and start to advocate and fight and do things like this quorum break, I think is inspiring to the rest of the nation, and I think Democrats across the country will start to pick up after that. Even going to the situation in New York, as you're saying right now, the mayoral candidate there, Zohran Mamdani, he talked about no more moral victories. No more, oh, we tried our best and we almost got something done. Going back to this fighting spirit, something we talk about here on the show often is two instances where we believe Democrats could have done a little bit more. The one that I always hit on is Merrick Garland, right? Merrick Garland
Yeah.
getting into the Supreme Court. How did we let that not happen? How did we just give up? And then the second one is the $15 minimum wage with the parliamentarian, It's like, how do we, the Republicans this time around, they're facing some trouble with their big, beautiful bill. They get around the parliamentarian. Democrats, we just kind of ease off and we fall into, I guess, we're very inclined to kind of play by the rules when other people aren't. So specifically with this situation, how are you navigating having to face, the backlash, I guess, if you will, the negative repercussions, whether those are the fines, or having to, I don't know if this is your situation, but not being able to go to work or not being able to see your family. How are you navigating that part of fighting back?
Well, it's a huge sacrifice, and I will tell you, it is hard to be away from home. It is hard to be away from your livelihood. I mean, we only get paid $600 a day as legislators in Texas. So, we had to carefully think about doing this, but at the end of the day, we have a moral obligation to stay here, to stay away from Texas right now, because we're defending American democracy. And you really can't put a price tag on that. We took our oath to the Constitution, and we're defending our constituents. And I'm so proud of that. And it really is, it's hard, and a lot of people are having a harder time than others. I'm so grateful that I have family members back home who are able to run my business. My kids are already grown. I do miss my grandkids, but we have folks here who have young children. We have folks who are, they're used to being gone for the 6 months during the regular session, but by now they should be back in maybe their law practice. We even have a doctor here. They should be getting back to their practices and running their businesses. And I just hope that people understand how big the sacrifice is, and we can never recover what we're going to lose, personally over these next few days. But can you really put a price on American democracy? I don't think you can. And I'm very grateful that folks are supporting us financially. I know donations are going in. I'm not part of those conversations in the leadership, but I know that there is a fund set up to help to alleviate those funds, the fees that we're going to be charged for not being on the House floor. I'm not sure how much that is yet, but we're going to try to figure out how to take care of all that. So those are plans in the work that we have yet to see. But for now, the most important thing was to do what was right for the American people and our constituents.
Yeah, and you're seeing Governor Greg Abbott, pull out all the stops to try to get Democrats to come back. Whether that's working with the FBI, whether that's the arrest warrants, whether those are the fines. Recently, I think he said that he's going to continue to call special sessions, I guess forever, indefinitely. He's pulling out all these tricks. Was this the same situation back in 2021? Is this a little bit different? Do you see more desperate? I don't know if desperation is the right word, but I guess more effort to bring Democrats back into the state?
Absolutely. I'm glad you brought this up, because last time we were fighting for voting rights in Texas. So that only impacted Texas. They were removing souls to the polls, which is a very important day of voting in our African American community. But also, they were removing 24-hour voting and drive-through voting, which became very helpful during COVID. So, thankfully, we were able to save souls to the polls, which is voting, being able to vote on Sunday early, after church. But this time, Donald Trump asked for these 5 seats. And so the governor is using more time, money, and resources of his his constituents to make sure that this happens. And he's using these scare tactics to John Cornyn to say that the FBI is cooperating and they're going to go after it. We are not criminals. We are not doing anything wrong. There are people actually doing things that are wrong. Hey, let me give you the 10 most wanted list. The FBI has more important things to do right now than to come after some people who are just trying to protect their constituents. What's happening right now with the quorum break is perfectly legal. It's written in the Texas Constitution and it has been utilized many, many times. But they are trying to put out that message, that rhetoric that we are doing something that is unlawful, which is an outright lie. And if you really look at it, they are the ones doing things that are unlawful. They are using taxpayer resources to give Donald Trump what he wants. They're doing an illegal mid-census redistricting. This is not normal. They're proposing some maps that are against the Civil Rights Act, the Voting Rights Act. I mean, they are doing just really some illegal things, and they are calling us the criminals, which is just outrageous. But we're ready to fight. Many of my colleagues are attorneys, and we are looking at everything. There was a lawsuit yesterday that was, I think, is going to be filed in Illinois. We're still trying to wrap our head around that and see what that situation is about. But they're trying to tell us that we've abandoned our jobs. But I can tell you, my staff is working every day. I'm working every day, and we are available to our constituents. If my constituents want to get a hold of me or meet with me, I'm available for that. But 9 times out of 10, my staff can handle the problems that they may have with child support or with application through the state. We had somebody reach out to us about a driver's license. So we're still here handling all these things. So for them to say we've abandoned our jobs or we're not working is just outrageous and a lie. And we're doing what's right for our constituents.
Yeah, no, and this goes back to, the conversation that we were having a little bit earlier with Republicans speaking for Democrats. I'm so happy to see as well, on top of just breaking quorum, so many of your colleagues going out and going on other programs. We work with Jolly Good Ginger here a lot, and I love the platform that he's giving to a lot of your colleagues as well, coming out and saying these things, because it's true. You're not abandoning your duties. You're, on the contrary, standing up for them. If you are sent to represent your constituents and make sure their voices are heard, there's nothing more than you can do than what you're doing right now, which is still, abiding by what you're supposed to do, but also speaking up in a way that that ensures that they're going to be represented at the national level as well.
Yes. And when you think about all the folks who came and testified that they didn't want redistricting and they didn't want these new maps, who's really doing what their constituents want? We are doing what we heard the people tell us, those folks who waited hours and hours to testify and say, these maps will disenfranchise us. We don't want these new maps. And so we stood up for that. And they are listening to what maybe 2 or 3 people who showed up and said they were in favor of the maps. I can tell you behind the scenes, Republicans, my own constituents, the 1 or 2 that may be Republican, I have a very strong Democratic district, but they have also reached out and said, I'm very grateful for what you're doing. I normally vote conservative, but this is just outrageous and I support you. So I really have not found anybody who's in favor of these maps. They really aren't. So we are doing the people's work by stopping the craziness, the extreme craziness that's going on.
Yeah, and another point here, I think something that often gets forget is, obviously there's this redistricting effort that's going on. I've always viewed it this way. I don't know if you view it this way, but I think Texas is purple. And I think that beyond this effort that has taken place, over the past month or so, there's been other efforts historically that have disenfranchised already so many Texans from being able to actually get out and make their voices heard. Otherwise, I think you would see a very different perspective on the national level of Texas and where their electoral seats tend to go every single year. Because I think it's a lot closer of a state than a lot of us would imagine.
It really is. And, when I travel without my state representative hat on, or even before I ran for office, when we would travel out of the state and you would say you're from Texas, people automatically assume you're a Republican. And when you say, oh no, I'm a staunch Democrat. I was raised a Democrat by my grandma who taught me about elections and wanted me to get out and vote. And they are usually very surprised. So it's really great right now for people to see that the fact that there is more than a third of us gives us the power, gives us this tool, this nuclear option to be able to leave the state and not give quorum, which is really incredible. And there would be, if it weren't for gerrymandering, I promise you, there would be more Democrats in the Texas House and in the Senate. But, the Republicans continue to try to hold on to their power. And, we're going to continue to see that happening. It's obvious right now. And one other thing that I wanted to point out is how they continue to criticize us and saying we're abandoning our jobs, but in Congress, Speaker Johnson let them out early so they
Yep.
wouldn't have to vote on the Epstein file. So you're right that we need to talk for them instead of the other way around, So we've got to flip that and we've got to be the ones putting them on notice because for too long, Democrats have been nice. And, as Michelle Obama told us that, when they go low, we go high. But you know what? We're going to have to just meet them at their own level. And
Yeah.
that's why I appreciate Governor Newsom offering his redistricting plan. I think they're going to roll it out today. To be honest with you, I think there will be a press conference later today, and some of my colleagues will be there. So that's very, very exciting. And it's the fight that people need to see. And we want our young people to get engaged and not get disappointed with either party. The Democratic Party loves you, and I'm a progressive. I've been in an article, I was selected as the most progressive member of the Texas House, and I wear that as a badge of honor. And I want to start getting these young people engaged because their college tuition fees are being impacted, not being able to buy a home at the same age that we did, our generation did. That's an issue. That's a huge problem. And, student loan debt and the cost of groceries and so many
Jobs.
things.
Can't
Yeah,
find it. You can't find a
jobs.
job. You can't pay for any
Oh
of it
my
if you can't find
goodness.
a job. Yeah.
Exactly. I
Yeah.
mean, come on. We've
Yeah.
got to start thinking of our younger generation, and we need them to speak up and tell us what they want so that we can, um, you know, create some policy, some measures around what they need from us. But yeah, I'm ready. I'm ready to do that.
Yeah, well, as someone from that younger generation, I will tell you that those progressive values, they do inspire us, seeing how you fight back against, you were talking about how they always want to cling on to power. We saw the same thing in January 6th. Like this is a habit that the Republican Party has formed at this point of trying to find ways to bend the rules so that they can, stay in power. As a final note here, how can we support you? How can we help you? How can we make this a little less hard for everyone that is breaking quorum right now?
So there is a website. It's called riggedredistricting.com. And
Very
I would
straightforward.
advise, yeah. So if you go there to that website, you can find out how to donate and other ways to help us. Follow all of our social media. Just like our posts. You don't even have to watch the whole thing, but that'll help us elevate the message. If nothing else, if we can't accomplish what we want to do and stop these maps, at least we took a pause right here to let people see what the Republicans are capable of and what they're doing. So it's important that we educate ourselves right now. Every American should be educated about elections, and it impacts every single person. So I'm grateful that you had me on your show, because I'm so excited to be able to share my message, and I hope more of my colleagues join you. We have some amazing folks that I get the pleasure to work with, and just so grateful to be here. So thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely, Representative Morales, and we'll have to connect when things are a little bit better, because feels like
Definitely.
a lot of negativity going on now. But I'm sure in a few years we can come back around and have a conversation about what you're doing for your constituents, because that Houston area is just so important, and it's great to see the work that you're
Come
doing.
visit me in Houston. I'll give you a tour of the district.
Yeah, I will have to. I will have to. I'll take you up on that. Well, thank you so
All
much for
right.
joining us.
All right. Take care.
Talk to you
Bye
soon.
bye.